Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Rob, and I talk about high-end collectible comics and comics art. Subscribe if that's your kind of thing. I love to talk about comics, and I post 1 or 2 videos a week doing just that. This is one of 2 videos I'm releasing this week. I'm hard at work on my recap of the recent Heritage Signature auction, and that's going to be fun. But if you caught my recent podcast episode, you'll know how I ran into 2 of the rarest books I've ever covered, kind of in the natural course of my research. If you haven't followed the work on the podcast, I've been looking at putting together a list of the best, most valuable, most important pre-hero comic books. So I'm looking at everything from the dawn of the pamphlet in the early 1930s until Action Comics #1 and trying to figure out a cool list of 10 pre-hero comics. As part of that research, I searched on Heritage by value and filtered on Platinum Age. Doing that, it was mostly early detectives, Detective One, some of the Christine Farrell books, etc. Except one of the books you see on screen, Dick Tracy, feature books, no number, 1B, CGC 7.0. It sold for 20 something thousand dollars. I'll give you the actual total in a minute. It's a striking cover, and I'd never heard of it before, so I started to do a little bit of research, and I ended up in a David McKay shaped rabbit hole. I talked about these books briefly in the podcast. I kind of finished up the last episode, episode 6, the third episode on this kind of pre-hero, Platinum Age, kind of quest research topic I've been doing. But as I do on the podcast, sometimes I'm actually researching while I'm recording it. Like I'm actually just looking at something, and then I pause and I get some information and I share it, and because I'm just kind of doing it, and it's interesting content for me to put out, and I think some of you guys enjoy it, so fun times. And so I actually continued to look at the books after that and decided to do a short video about them because they're fascinating. I also made a couple small mistakes in the podcast, which is I was researching in real time, so I want to clarify. And, I just wanted to do a deeper dive into the population as we know it and kind of try and quantify like how rare these books are. This will be very nerdy. So previously, I think the rarest book I've covered kind of normally that just came up is probably Double Action. There's 9 copies in the census. The book rarely sells. It's incredibly cool. Again, Christine Farrell. But these blow that book away. So we'll start by taking a look at the Overstreet listings for both of these books. I'll start with the information. So these books are listed in 3 places. One, they're listed under feature books, and then they're listed by title. It's one of those things where you get a main listing and then you have to go somewhere else. If you've been in the hobby as long as I have, you get used to these things. I always talk about the promotional section, just kills me. Anyway, so I'll go through with the initial information under feature books, and then I'll share some information that's in the individual listings, which is where you'll find the value, certainly. So I'll start. So feature books, newspaper reprints, early issues, David McKay Publications, May 1937. No number, Popeye and the Jeep, 100 pages, reprinted as feature books number 3. Very rare, only 3 known copies, 1 VF, 2 in low grade. That's not true, but we'll talk about what is actually out there so far. There could be raw copies as well. The second book, No Number, Dick Tracy #1, reprinted as feature book number 4, 100 pages, reprinted as part of 4-color #1, rare, less than 10 known copies, which is true. And then the note in feature books, the above books were advertised together with different covers from feature books 3 and 4. Now let's look at the individual listings. Dick Tracy, feature book, no number, 100 pages, partially reprinted as 4-color #1, appeared before larger feature comics. First Dick Tracy comic book. This is the first Dick Tracy comic book. Very rare, 5 known copies. So that's different information that's in the feature books listing. So now we're working with 5 copies. Overstreet says there's 5 copies of the Dick Tracy book and 3 for the Popeye book. We'll see where we end up in the CGC Census, etc. The price value, it goes to $9.2. Not all of these books do, and is valued at $37,000 in Overstreet. This is a Gerber 9, by the way. The Popeye listing adds no more data about the book, but lists a 9.2 value of $26,000 for that book. And as an aside, that book is not listed in Gerber. So that's pretty rare. Okay. Here's the census for the Popeye book. There are 5 total copies, which is 2 more than are listed in Overstreet. And there are 2 higher graded copies, one 8.0 and one 7.5. So if you remember, they said there's one VF copy. In addition to that, there's a restored 6.0, a universal 6.0, and a universal 4.5. So I don't know which one of those are like considered lower grade for an incredibly rare book from 1937. I wouldn't call Fine lower grade. I wouldn't even call VG lower grade, really. There are some books that I've been looking at in this pre-hero thing where the highest graded copy is a 2. So this one's not doing too bad. So I'm assuming that there are 2 more copies out there that are actually low grade. Not sure, but that's what I'm going to go with right now. But the census, we have 5. Here's a listing for the Dick Tracy book. There are 3 copies: a restored 7.5, the CGC 7.0 that kicked off this whole thing, and then a CGC 4.5. Like I said, this is a Gerber 9, so it's actually kind of what you would expect from a Gerber 9, I think. Let's take a look at some sales. The CGC 8.0 copy of the Popeye book sold for $6,572.50 at Heritage in 2011. This is one of the things I wanted to clear up from the podcast. I quickly scanned the serial numbers between the 7.5 and the 8.0, and they're very similar, which confused me, and I thought they were the same book. The 7.5 is 09137860001, and the 8.0 is 09138750001. These serial numbers, in general, are so long I can't remember the entire thing. If you can, you have a great memory, even for short periods of time. So I generally compare 7 digits, which I can remember. The first 4 and then the last 3. The last 3 is the invoice, and the first 4 are usually unique when I'm comparing 2 books. Not in this case. So in this case, I looked and I said 0913001. So it's the first book in this 0913 invoice. The thing is, the middle digits are different. The invoices match 0913, but then it goes 786 and the other one goes 875. And I normally don't look at those middle digits because it's normally not an issue. Oh well. But as in researching it, I realized that I had messed up, and I wanted to, mea culpa on that and clear that up. But that's what happens when you're doing research live or semi-live, like recording a podcast. So, but I'm not going to stop doing that because it's fun. Anyway, it's really crazy that, the two of what are the odds? 2 copies of this incredibly rare book would share so many similarities in the serial number. That's pretty crazy. They were graded a month apart in 2010, which just seems preposterous. Let's look at the sales for the 7.5. That book sold for $4,780 at Heritage in 2010, and then sold for $13,500, according to GPA, August 7th, 2012. I'm not sure of the venue, but that's a big sale. The restored 6.0 sold for $4,440 on November 23rd, 2019. So we've already got the 3 copies that are listed in Overstreet, although they don't quite match up. So the Overstreet listing is pretty wrong. There's more than one VF, and this is not low grade. And here we go, the 4th copy that we have evidence of, CGC 4.5. This book sold for $6,300 in 2012 at Comic Connect and was a Ruben Blades book. That guy collected all of the coolest stuff ever. Like anything that's rare and is like a quote collector book, Ruben Blades had one of. I mean, like that guy's books were great. So much fun. I just noticed that. That's so much fun. So we have 4. We have 4 copies. There's a 5th in the census, and then these 2 mentioned lower grade copies. So I don't know if one of those was restored up to 6.0. If they meant one of the 4.5 was low grade, I don't know, but we at least have 5. Let's take a look at the Dick Tracy sales and see how many copies we can identify of that book. In February of 2008, a restored, very fine copy sold for $3,346 at Heritage. I wonder if this is the CGC 7.5 restored. That book was added to the census in 2010, so it could be. And by the way, that was the first copy of this book ever graded. There were no copies until 2010. That's crazy. This 7.0 in the census, that was the second graded in 2020. It's crazy. This book is crazy rare. And here's the book. CGC 7.0 sold September 10th, 2020 for $21,600. This VG Plus file copy sold for $4,887.50 in May of 2005. By the way, is this the CGC graded 4.5? That was only added to the census in 2023. So if it was bought in 2005, that's a long time to wait to get it graded. On October 2nd, 2004, this apparent very fine near mint sold for $2,990. So right now we've got 4 or 5 copies. There are 3 in the census. We've seen the 7.0. I think the restored 7.5 is probably the apparent 7.5 in the census. And then we've got maybe 1 or 2 VG copies, depending on whether or not the one from 2005 is the one that's in the census. And then this apparent very fine near mint, which isn't covered in the census at all. So I'm going to kind of go with 4, with this being the new one, but it could be 5. It could be 6, actually, because there could be 2 restored 7.5s, etc. But I kind of get the sense that it's 4. I don't know. Maybe somebody knows. And if you do know, let me know. I'd love to know. Thanks for checking this one out. It was fun to discover and explore these books over the weekend. If you listen to the podcast or watched it here on YouTube, link in the description, you'll see how excited I was by these books. It was just a total discovery for me, and is exactly the kind of stuff that I love to research and discover and learn about. I've been in this hobby for a long time, and like now I know about these books. It's amazing, super fun. Hopefully you had fun learning about them too. As I said, if you know anything about these books, drop a comment, send me an email, reach out on CGC forums. You can find me. I would love to hear about it, even if I can't share the information. I just like the knowledge in my head. As I mentioned, I have the Heritage video coming out maybe tomorrow or Thursday. Following that, I'll drop a new podcast episode maybe over the weekend. I'm going to keep doing shorts. Those have been fun. Any kind of new fun information shows up, I like to share it. And yeah, if you haven't, please like and subscribe. Check out the podcast. Share with your friends. Comment. Let me know what you think about these books. I think they're amazing. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.